Okay, welcome to another video on Patreon. This is Tim in Tokyo.
And this is Paul in New Hampshire. And Tim, I want to show you and our listeners something. I got something in the mail yesterday that has a picture of some really hot chicks.
Uh, um, your picture's frozen,
Oh, great. Is
or at
it
least it.
still frozen?
Yeah, no, now it's not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad it didn't freeze on this because, if we get in trouble with the FCC for me showing you this photograph of these hot chicks, I don't want to get into a trouble. I don't think Donna Lauren is among them, although I can see like a fleck of milkshake on one of the mouths of one of these chicks. But I mean, check this out. And, by hot, I mean, you know,
Under a sun
in-
lamp.
incubator lamp. Yeah, exactly. You can just see how hot and fried they'll be someday. Anyway, well, okay. So
Hmm.
yes, that's the species spiciest part of today's podcast.
Well, maybe. So I set out to do a 70s music trivia quiz. What I ended up with was a music trivia quiz encompassing the 60s, the 70s, a little bit of the 80s, and even in one case, the 90s.
Like Rob Reiner in Spinal Tap, but I got more, a lot more. That I'd set out to do this, but I got so much more. All right. Well, that's pretty much, although the early 90s, I was listening to the radio sometimes, but I was not a music purchaser at that time. So,
Hmm.
and I wasn't really like I didn't have the pulse of pop music the way I did when listening to like college radio stations in college towns that played hits. And also, well, didn't listen to AT40 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really missing out.
Hmm.
And the countdown continues.
Okay, so these first two questions are completely 70s.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. This 70s disco hit originated from an angry, obscenity laced jam by the songwriters after being turned away at the door of Studio 54. Which song was it? I think you
I've
might know
heard
the
this
answer.
story.
Okay. A. Disco Inferno by the Tramps. B. Le Freak by Chic. C. Boogie Nights by Heatwave. Or D. Brick House by the Commodores.
Ooh, um, maybe I haven't heard this story because none of those songs rings a bell exactly. Um, Boy, I'm gonna go with Boogie Nights, but I don't think that's right.
No, it's Le Freak.
It is Le Freak.
Yes.
Okay.
So Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards had been invited to Studio 54 by Grace Jones for New Year's Eve 1977. But
Okay, when you get invited to Studio 54 by Grace Jones, that ought to be your ticket in.
but she had forgotten to tell the nightclub staff. So Rodgers and Edwards couldn't get in. They made up this melody to accompany the doorman's words as he slammed the door on them, which were, to clean it up for this video, F off. So that was the original lyrics rather than freak out. But because they realized they couldn't sing F off on the radio, and at first they tried
Hmm.
changing it to freak off, but that didn't work. So
No,
it became freak out.
that's great. Yes, I was thinking of something else, some song that was basically just mumbling in its initial
Mm.
um, recording. I think it might have actually been a television theme, but anyway, perhaps it'll come back to me, but it's not worth trying to work it
Okay.
out in my memory on camera.
It must have been making it. Making it. TV theme. Disco.
Yes, right, right. And it has three words. Well, it has a lot of words that rhyme with macon, taken, bacon,
Yes.
fakin.
Okay, second question. In 1974, ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest and went on to be one of the biggest groups of the 70s. Which song did they perform at Eurovision?
Hmm.
A. Mamma Mia. B. Fernando. C. Waterloo, D, SOS.
Fernando?
No, Waterloo.
Okay. Well, like with Le Freak, it was my second guess, but I still got it wrong.
Okay, so I did some looking into you could call response records or answer records, where an artist puts out a record that is a response to somebody else's record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got 5 of these. So I'm going to
Okay.
say the first record and artist and tell me the response record and artist.
I'm reminded of the time when I totally like whiffed it every single time when trying to come up with actors who played multiple roles on Batman. Oh, and titles, episode titles. Oh
mm,
man,
mm,
that was my lowest moment.
And this one doesn't even have anything to do with Batman.
Right, yeah, this doesn't have anything to do with something I ostensibly know something about. Ah,
Okay, well, I tried to keep these as easy as possible.
okay.
Wikipedia has a whole page of these, and a lot of them were either, well, super obvious or super impossible.
Mm,
So,
well, if it weren't difficult, it wouldn't be any fun. So
yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, Back in the USA by Chuck Berry.
Um, Back in the USSR.
That's right, by
Okay,
the
I just
Beatles.
wasn't sure if the timing would be right.
Okay, Norwegian Wood by the Beatles.
Oh boy. I'm thinking it might be a Beach Boys song, weirdly enough, but
No.
I know John and Paul were paying a lot of attention to the Beach Boys, right
Mm,
around that time, the Pet Sounds
yeah,
moment.
well, as Back in the USSR proves.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Complete with the woo woo woos.
No, okay, think folk.
Okay. Hmm. Dylan?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a Dylan song about wood. If that would be helpful.
Okay, well,
I'm just gonna blurt out Maggie's Farm.
I was not super aware of this song, but I listened to it today and I could see how it was patterned after Norwegian Wood. Fourth Time Around from
Right.
the
Or
Blonde on Blonde album.
Norwegian Wood was patterned after it. Um, right. Okay. I'm trying to think. The problem with Dylan songs of that era is I know them really well. Like I've listened to Blonde on Blonde umpteen times, but I can't think of which song Fourth Time Around is. I can't come up with the melody because the title's not closely related to any of the lyrics, as is often the case in
No,
Dylan songs from that
yeah,
period.
yeah, the title is not in the song.
Well, don't worry about it. I'll go back and listen to it,
Okay.
and I'll know it instantly. And oh wow, yeah, he totally got it. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, well,
Okay.
that's an interesting connection. I didn't really realize that
Yeah.
at all.
Okay, so what was the response to Too Many People by Paul McCartney?
It had to be a song by Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
F you by John Lennon.
Le Freak by John Lennon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he did co-write a disco song. He wrote Fame, after all, with Bowie. Boy, I should know this, and I should know the title, and I'm just totally blanking on it right now.
Hmm.
Is this the one that contains the lyric? The only good thing you ever done was yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, but I can't come up with the
Okay.
title of the song.
How do you sleep?
That's it. Yes, yes, good. Okay.
Okay. Um. Hmm. Now I'm not completely sure about this one, but what was the response to "How do you sleep"?
um, I suppose Paul just like flipping John the Bird as he drove in his cab past John's apartment building. Oh boy. Bluebird?
No. Well, according to Wikipedia, Some People Never Know,
Yeah, I
which
don't
is
even know
on
that
the
track.
first Wings album,
The
Wildlife.
Wildlife.
Yeah.
Yes, that album that critics still can't stand after all these years.
And the last part of this question, I think you'll get this one. Southern Man by Neil Young.
Oh, Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah,
I
by
hope Neil Young will
Leonard Skinner.
remember the yes, Southern men don't need him around anyhow.
Right. Okay.
But as um, legend or perhaps fact has it, um, Neil Young was an honorary pallbearer at Van Sant's funeral.
Oh.
Even though they'd had this kind of war of words via the song lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But yes. So poor Leonard Skinner. Yet another band. I was thinking about Otis Redding the other day too, who also died in a plane crash, which I didn't realize until fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Man, we lost so many people to like light aircraft crashes and
Stevie
rock
Ray
history.
Vaughan.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I'll never forget that night. I was so devastated.
Mm-hmm. Before we were born, Buddy Holly.
Yes, and the Big Bopper, right?
Yeah, and Richie
And Virtue
Valens.
Valens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Oh, and Jim Croce, I believe,
Oh,
died
that's
in
right. That's
light
right.
aircraft crash as well.
Yeah.
Sad.
Anyway, so today I sent you the YouTube video for Warren Zevon's 1980 single "A Certain Girl."
Yes, and of course the video doesn't move very much. It's just
No,
the
it's
album
the
cover.
album cover. Yeah.
Although I saw a live performance from I think '82 in another YouTube video
Hmm.
below it, where it looked like suspiciously like one of the Picaros playing the drums behind him. Toto, Toto,
May
Toto.
very well have been.
Hmm.
Um, now, this song was originally released by Ernie Kado in
Hmm.
1961.
Right, part of the Louisiana R&B crowd, I think.
In 1965, a certain British band also released a version. Which band? A. The Yardbirds. B. The Hollies. C. Herman's Hermits. D. Manfred Mann.
I know that it was the Yardbirds because I just like started digging into that
Ah,
song and its history right
okay.
after you sent me the video.
Okay. So the Yardbirds released a version on their 1965 album For Your Love, including a 30-second guitar solo by Eric Clapton.
Hmm.
Future Yardbird Jimmy Page played lead guitar on another recording of the song by English group The First Gear in 1964. Uh, Warren Zevon or his co-producer Greg Ladagny made an innovation with the song in terms of the backup vocal. The backup singers in all the versions ask what's her name, and the lead
Hmm.
says I can't tell you. In the other three versions, a backing vocal sings no. But in Zevon's version, the backup vocals, credited to Jackson Brown, apparently a multi track Jackson Brown,
Hmm.
expressed their disappointment with "Aw."
Which fits well with the song, but fits even better with Warren Zevon's like jocularity as a songwriter.
Bonus question: which version of A Certain Girl charted the highest in the U.S.?
Oh boy, I think it was Ernie's version, wasn't it? The first release.
No, it only got to 71.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, his mother-in-law track was a much bigger hit. I think that was the biggest hit of his career.
okay. You're frozen again, by the way.
Oh, well, not because of anything I did.
It's Mr. Freeze.
Let it go. I'm frozen. Ha ha ha.
The first gear version doesn't seem to have charted. I couldn't find anything about
Hmm.
that charting. And the Yardbirds put it on the B side of their first single, I Wish You Would, which didn't chart in either the US or the UK.
Hmm.
So
And
the
that was
winner,
and For Your Love was their first album, for
yeah.
their first LP, I believe.
So the winner's Warren Zevon. His version got to number 57.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, well, we certainly never heard it on Casey's Coast to Coast
No.
countdown.
It's
But
interesting.
we did hear it on KRNA, I think, right?
People kept covering it, but it was never a big hit.
Hmm. Yeah, it's surprising. It's kind of a great song. It's got a good hook.
Mm-hmm.
And the guitar solo on the Zevon version is pretty great. I never really listened to it very carefully before, like ever. I couldn't have picked it out of a lineup if you'd paid me, but I really thought it was pretty hot stuff.
Oh, you're finally unfrozen.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. By the way, I think that guitar solo was played by one of the Eagles. I noticed there are several Eagles listed as playing on that
Hmm.
album.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Hmm. Um, no, I lost it. Okay. Finally, what do these five songs have in common? Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder, Get Into the Groove by Madonna, and Love Fool by the Cardigans.
Hmm. Does Jeff Beck play on all of them?
I don't think so.
Well, I think he does play on Isn't She Lovely, believe it or not. He did some studio work for Stevie Wonder in the early 70s, just when he was doing some of his, kind of most monumental and legendary work. Uh, let's see. Isn't She Lovely? Was it Love Fool by the Cardigans?
Yeah.
What were the other ones?
Stairway to Heaven, Under My Thumb, and Get Into the Groove by Madonna.
Boy. Well, I was going to say Bernard Edwards doesn't play bass on all of them, although he does play bass on at least one of them, I think. Oh, by the way, Don Felder plays guitar on A Certain Girl. I just looked
Okay.
it up.
Okay.
So no wonder it's such an excellent guitar solo. This is the man who brought us the half of the guitar solo from Hotel California. I'm sorry, Tim. I
Hmm.
can't come up with it.
Okay. Well, what's something significant that I'm sure you know about Stairway to Heaven?
That it might have been plagiarized from a song by Spirit.
Okay, not that. Um,
Okay.
so okay, here's a question. How high did it get on the chart? On
Hmm.
the singles chart?
Singles chart. Wow, I don't believe it was ever on the singles chart, was it?
That's right. Why not?
Because it was 7.5 minutes long.
No.
Because it was never released as a single.
That's right. So none of these songs were ever released as commercial singles in the US.
Get Into the Groove was never released as a commercial single.
No.
Wow.
So I've got some information about each one here. So
Okay, great.
Under My Thumb didn't come out as a single in any English speaking countries. Wikipedia shows a picture sleeve for the Japanese single.
Okay.
Stairway to Heaven was the most requested song of the 70s at FM radio stations. Atlantic Records pressured the band to release it as a single, but as Jimmy Page told Rolling Stone in 1975, they were, quote, careful, unquote, not to release it as a single, so consumers would have to buy the whole album.
That was a smart move.
Uh,
Although I have heard radio cuts of it, that cut
hmm,
out segments of Page's guitar solo. At least I'm pretty sure I have.
huh.
Could be a totally, constructed memory. But anyway.
Stevie Wonder didn't want to shorten the 6.5 minute Isn't She Lovely to allow it to fit on a single, but the public was demanding a single. So Wikipedia says Tamla Records, quote, compromised, unquote, by releasing a 3.5 minute version as a promotional single to radio stations only.
Mm,
On the strength of airplay alone, the song got to number 23 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary chart.
interesting.
Madonna's record company didn't want Get Into the Groove from the movie Desperately Seeking Susan to compete with the current release from the Like a Virgin album, Angel. After a clash earlier in 1985 between Material Girl and the Madonna song from the Vision Quest soundtrack, Crazy for You, which were both out about the same time.
Mm.
So, Get Into the Groove was only released as the B side of the 12-inch maxi single of Angel.
Huh.
Uh,
Okay.
it became the first 12-inch single to go gold since Frankie Smith's Double Dutch Bus 4 years earlier.
The double Dutch bus.
In 1996, when Love Fool came out, as explained by Chris Malamphy on the Hit Parade podcast, the record companies were frequently pursuing a strategy of releasing songs to radio and then not releasing them as singles, following Led Zeppelin's idea of forcing consumers to buy the album.
Mm.
Another one in that category is Can't Touch This by MC Hammer.
Interesting.
Was never a single.
Well, no, Love Fool was also on the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack, right? The Leonardo
Yeah, that's
DiCaprio
right.
um, version of Romeo and Juliet. I guess that was a Baz Luhrmann
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would have thought that that would have been released as a single, like every which way to Sunday.
Mm.
But I guess not.
Yeah, at least not in the U.S. I think it was in other countries, but
Right, right. It got heavy, heavy, heavy airplay on U.S. alternative radio in the 90s.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so that's my 70s plus music quiz.
Dang, that was a good one, Tim. Woo, woo.
Thank you. Okay, so thanks for watching, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with something or other, some kind of quiz.
Maybe we'll even talk about Batman.
Imagine that.
Who'd have thunk? All right,
Okay,
take care,
see ya.
everybody.